everyone. Over the last month, I shared quite a lot of content about the cultural capital of Switzerland, Basel, with you. You could read some articles about it, you could watch short video clips, and enjoy numerous photos of the charming city. However, if you'd like to get to know the city really well, the best thing to do is to ask its locals about it. So today I'm going to do exactly that. I have a very special guest with me, Nik Frankenberg, and I'm going to ask him a little bit about his city. So Nik, welcome to the Culture Tourist. Can you please tell me a bit about yourself?
Hi, Tia. Yes, of course. So, my name is Nik von Frankenberg. I was born in Basel. I've grown up here. I went to school and everything, and I've never left. So I'm now 42, and I live here with my daughter and my partner in Klein Basel, which is like Basel is made up of two bits divided by the Rhine. I live in the smaller part. Yeah, I have some British and German roots, and I think the German side of my family moved to Switzerland around the beginning of the 20th century. So we've been here for a while, and yeah, you could say I'm a local.
Can you tell me what do you do for a living? Do you have any hobbies?
Yeah, I work at a place called Clara, which is sort of a street food restaurant. We have 9 small kitchens serving street food from all around the world. It also has a big bar. And originally I studied sociology, environmental science, and gender studies. That's a long time ago. And I've been working all sorts of jobs on construction sites. I worked as a journalist, and I guess my main passion in life is DJing and producing music. And I've done that since I'm about, I don't know, 12 or 13. So quite a long time. And yeah, that sort of sums me up.
Yeah. How would you describe Basel to someone who has never visited it, who was never there?
Right. So obviously there's the whole official thing, which is on paper. It's in the center of Europe. It's been a artistic, cultural, and trade hub since pre-Roman times, almost. And a part of that tradition still lives on. There's loads of museums. There's loads of things happening. When you actually visit here, you realize pretty quickly that it's kind of odd because it's a city, but it's not a metropolis. It's a small city. So you can reach almost every part by 20 minutes riding your bike. That also makes it kind of small and easy to navigate. And because it's right on the border to France and Germany, it's almost cut off from 2 sides. And the main connection to like the other part of Switzerland is only over a smaller part. And that makes it a little bit odd because it belongs to Switzerland, but it's also a bit detached from it. And you can tell that in the mentality of the people. They are Swiss, but they also like to put them a little bit away from Switzerland. Like there's a very popular advertising slogan which says like Basel thinks different so from the rest of Switzerland. And yeah, the people like to look at it that way. Yeah, what can you say? There is a very old part of town, which is almost 1,000 years old at this moment. And around that, you have the more modern bits. You have some industrial areas. And I guess this mixture kind of makes it what it is today. What else is to say? Yeah, obviously the Rhine flows through it, divides the city into 2. And that's, I guess, a big part of it because you can go swimming there in the summer. You can sit along the shores. And so, yeah, more or less that's about it.
Yeah, I really like how you described it, that it's very independent in a way. And I really had that feeling when I was in Basel. And with the Rhine, I had an impression that people really like to spend their time next to the Rhine. So it's almost like a part of the city identity. Yeah,
definitely. And it hasn't always been like that. I remember when I was a lot younger, then there weren't that much spaces to hang out along the shore. And now it's really this place where you just go in the evening or where you walk along the day. And it's been rebuilt in certain parts that you can really walk along parts along the Rhine. And yeah, so it has become definitely an identity of the city.
Mhm.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. What do you like the most about your city?
Well, the thing is, I guess everyone who grows up in a place and then stays there, they always have sort of a love-hate relationship with that place. Because, so for instance, I love that I can be everywhere really quick, that it's really easy to navigate. At the same time, I sometimes would like to be somewhere where I can actually get lost, because I know every part and it's so small. It's like, yeah, I know every bit, and I like to be somewhere which feels a bit bigger sometimes. And the same is, I love like my huge circle of friends, all my colleagues and collaborators and all that. On the other hand, I also would like to be somewhere where I'm a stranger, where no one knows me. So there's always that back and forth a bit. Um, what I definitely love is how in recent years there was this huge outburst of creativity in the, especially music and artistic scenes. A lot of stuff has happened, like a whole new generation of people came up, and they're producing incredibly high quality amount of work, and I really enjoy seeing that. So there's so many producers and musicians and DJs and actors and visual artists and just people doing their own stuff and building up something, either by themselves or with a crew, and it's just really cool to see and to hear. So yeah, that's what right now I really have to say I really like about Basel.
Yeah, you mentioned people of Basel right now. How would you describe people living in Basel? What are they like?
They certainly have a little, you could almost say, introverted side to them, quite discreet. They don't, in Basel, you tend not to boast so much. It's more like you do the stuff a little bit in quiet and then other people find out about it. Obviously, I'm generalizing here massively, but compared to other places, it's, yeah, a little bit more subdued and a little bit more like people enjoy, or they try to enjoy life with grace, and they don't so much just burst out and let everything out. And that's certainly part of the mentality, I would say. And I mean, because Basel has a huge university, it has huge in the international corporations working here. There's huge parts of the banking sector, and all that leads to the fact that a lot of people move here, sometimes only temporarily, which makes the whole demographic incredibly diverse. And I guess you could say that people are, in general, they tolerate each other, they get along, they're used to being in close vicinity to people from all over the place, from all kinds of orientations and whatever. So I think that makes it quite a tolerant place, at least in my experience.
Mm, yeah. During my visit, of course, I was there only over the weekend. But during my visit, I had a feeling that Basel has a certain Mediterranean feel, and
Mm-hmm.
also with people living there. So we were mentioning the Rhine River, how people are walking next to it and meeting their friends next to it. I also saw many people sitting on the benches, reading the books, and that felt very southern in a way. Can you
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
recognize that?
definitely. That's, I have to say, that's a new development. I remember walking along the Rhine on sunny days when I was a lot smaller, and not very many people did that. And it's become a lot more open in that way, that people really hang out outside together. And it's it's weird for me to see, because I'm so used to it, I sometimes don't see it anymore. And when I go to another place, I don't know, in southern Spain or Portugal or something like that, I see something and suddenly realize it's not that much different than from how I'm used to it in Basel. That's true. But it's interesting to hear that from you as a stranger who comes here and says that, because I sometimes don't really see it. I don't see the Mediterranean side. But then when you point it out, I say, yes, of course, that's definitely
Yeah.
happening. So
We
yeah,
very often get used to our cities or the places where we live. So maybe
yes,
sometimes we don't look at them with a new pair of eyes.
yeah, very
Well,
much.
culture tourist is all about the museums and art, and Basel is spelled the capital of art, I would say, one of the European capitals of art. What is your favorite museum in Basel?
I have to say, I've probably been in every museum at least once, but I tend to go when there's a specific expedition or a specific event or something. So I can't say I have a favorite museum. I do have a soft spot for the Natural History Museum because I've been going there when I was really small. So there's some sort of buying little plastic dinosaur, learning about the planet and stuff like that. The thing is, like, Basel has so many museums and they have such a huge variety of exhibitions. I sometimes wonder why they don't show more of what's actually happening sort of on the streets and in the city itself. Like, Basel used to have one of the longest graffiti lines in all of Europe and had this huge culture of spray painting and of graffiti and of hip hop culture in general. And to my knowledge, not a single large museum in Basel has ever shown something of that. So I sometimes feel like there's a bit of there's a hole between the museum side of it and what actually happens. Like, you have this huge street art culture. You have loads of artists doing things in off spaces or just doing things on their own in some space which is unused, which was an industrial area or so. And I'm more interested in that side and often go to those places. So sometimes I'd only go to a museum if there's a specific thing I say, yeah, I want to see that, so I'll go there. But yeah, to get back to your question, which is a bit of a roundabout, I don't have a favorite museum. I just go wherever something's interesting. But having said that, I think some of the museums are interesting just by their architecture alone. So like the Kunstmuseum with the new building is, I think, really impressive from the inside, or the Vitra Museum just over the border is also really interesting. So yeah, I sort of go when there is something interesting, and the rest I just take in, but it's so part of the everyday life that I don't think much about it really.
Mm, yeah. Well, talking about that, do you have any, what's your favorite place in Basel? Or do you have any favorite places?
I really like two spots at the moment. They're both, like, one is the old port area in to the north of the city along the Rhine. A couple of, like, about 20 years ago, it used to be just an industrial area, and then it was cleared and the government basically put it up to be used as for whoever had a project to deal with. That all got a bit complicated, but then really something started to develop there. And now you have this huge area with loads of bars and restaurants and studios, and there's a beautiful skate bowl, there is workshops, and it has a sort of anarchic feeling to it, which I like, because there's just loads of different stuff just popping out and happening, and some things are only open for a few months and then they close again. And that area is becoming very established now, but it's still a cool place to hang out, especially because it's on the western side of the Rhine, so you have beautiful sunsets. And a similar project is opening up on the other side of the Rhine now, which is called Lido. And there's also loads of people just doing their projects, opening up a restaurant or a bar. A group of friends just opened sort of a volleyball field there, a beach volleyball field, and they built their bar around it. And it's a really nice place to hang out. And those are kind of my favorite places at the moment, because you see something's happening, you see a lot of creativity, and it's really nice to see how these things grow. And they just use the spaces that are available, because, like I said before, Basel is sort of cut off from a few sides, so you don't have unlimited expansion space. So whenever something comes up and is not used for a while, it's really cool to see how it's being used and how people enjoy being there.
Mm.
And I think it's also that kind of energy which sort of keeps, it's sort of a glue for the people to hold together, because they experience things there and they do things, and yeah, I enjoy seeing that.
Mm. That's something which was fascinating for me in Basel, that it has such a strong history, and with an old town and the cathedral and so many beautiful historic buildings. But then you have these such a progressive and urban new part
Yeah,
of the city and
yeah,
the new, I would say, vibe, which is definitely visible in the city. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my next question is kind of linked to that.
Mhm.
If you would need to show someone Basel in a day, where would you take them?
So I thought about that. There's like two versions. There's one version where I don't know, I would walk along the Rhine in the morning because you can just see the city in a nice way there. I would then cross the Rhine to the Münster, which is like the oldest, biggest church in the center of town, which is a bit up on a hill. You can actually get up on one of the towers, and from there you have a view over the whole city. So it's a good place to start and just see how large the city actually is and see everything. Um, then pretty close to there is the old center of town, and I would walk through that and then maybe go to a museum and then go back on the other side of the Rhine, go to the Dangeli Museum, and there you can get a swim bag, you get all your stuff in there, you hop into the Rhine, and then you float through the city in the sunset, which is a fantastic thing to do. And then you can go somewhere in Kleinbos and have a nice dinner. That's sort of the official, almost the touristy way, but it is nice. There's nothing to say about that. And then there's sort of the unofficial way, which is more like you stay in bed for a while because you've stayed out late the night before. Then you go through Klein Basel, where there's loads of local boutiques and little stores and little bars. You can have great brunches in various cafes. You spend your afternoon there, and then in the evening you go to one of those areas I mentioned before, like either the port area or the Lido. You stay there for a little bit and just hang out. Then you go to one of the loads of dark and dingy bars which are all over town, and then at late you take an Uber and you go either to the north to a place like Nordstern, or you go to the south to a place like Elysia, which are like two of the biggest clubs in Basel. And there you can hear some really fantastic music from local DJs or from international guests. And you really see like where the people of Basel go at night, which I think is always a sign of where you find the soul of a place in a way. And then you come home in the morning when other people go to work and you collapse into bed.
I think both versions are really nice.
Yeah.
For me, swimming at the Rhine River was a bit too much, so I skipped it this time.
Yeah.
But I think the second version of going out in a club and like mingle with locals is definitely super nice. Do you have any favorite activities in Basel to do in this time of the year?
Well, next week this is obviously on this year special is the Art Basel. It's normally in spring, but because of the pandemic, everything has been pushed. And the Art Basel it's also one of those love-hate things, because at one time you see a lot of stuff you think is a bit over the top and you wonder why are all these people going crazy. But then on the other hand, you get to see a lot of really cool art. So that's something that I would do right now. Then something that happens every year in autumn is the Herbstmesse, which is sort of the Basel fair, where you have loads of little stalls selling food, and then you have all the big rides all over town. And yeah, it makes the whole city look a bit special. And what I generally like to do is take my bike and ride somewhere through the hills around Basel. And in autumn, obviously, that is beautiful because it takes you 15 minutes and you're somewhere in the forest and you have like beautiful colors, and it's a good chance to get out of the city a little bit. So I would do something in between those three, I guess.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining me. It was a real pleasure having you in this interview.
Fantastic. Thank you too.